As you saw in the last part, Zelda and its sequel were very popular games in the 80s. You would normally think that a popular franchise selling more than 10 million copies so far that Nintendo would make another sequel fast. Well, that was not the case. There were 5 long years till Zelda fans were treated to a new Zelda on a new console, and that new Zelda was A Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. Nintendo utilized the Super Nintendo's 16-bit technology beautifully and returned the gameplay of A Link to the Past to the top-down perspective of the original games. The game's Hyrule was not a barren wasteland anymore, but a huge land filled with tons of life. And this Link was not the same Link as the Link in the Nintendo Entertainment System games. This would be a trend in many future Zelda games to come to introduce a new Link at the start of the adventure, except, of course, the obvious sequels. The game also packed a much more massive story and a light and dark world system. We learned a lot of new information, such as Ganon's past and the history of Hyrule. A Link to the Past was the perfect evolution from the original games. Critics and fans alike loved A Link to the Past. A Link to the Past would end up selling 4 million copies and would be put on the multiple best game of all time lists. Much later, it even got a Game Boy Advance port for some Zelda action on the go. Speaking of Zelda action on the go, much before the Link to the Past port, the original Game Boy was treated to Link's Awakening. It first appeared in a monochromatic color scheme, but eventually when the Game Boy Color came out, it got a colorized version of the game called Link's Awakening DX. With the 8-bit technology of the Game Boy, Link's Awakening still captured the feel of the 16-bit Link to the Past beautifully. Link's Awakening will come to sell 6 million copies, beating A Link to the Past in sales. Sadly, the time of Zelda is going to have a so-called Dark Age with the creation of one device, the Philips CDI. Long story short on the history of the CDI, Nintendo wanted to make a Super Nintendo CD add-on, but the plans fell through and Philips ended up still keeping the rights to be able to make Zelda games on the Philips CDI. Philips eventually managed to make 3 Zelda games before the console's death: Link, The Faces of Evil, Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon, and Zelda's Adventure. These 3 games are some of the worst travesties to ever come to an amazing video game series. They returned the game to Zelda 2's side-scrolling feel with broken controls, bad physics, and hilariously bad cutscenes.
Great! I'll grab my stuff!
There is no time. Your sword is enough.
How about a kiss? For luck?
You've got to be kidding.
Squadala, we are off!
Wow! What are all those heads?
These are the faces of evil. You must conquer each.
I guess I'd better get going.
Here is the map. Where do you wish to go?
In Japan, around the same time, and forgive me if I pronounce his name wrong, the Satellaview was released in Japan. That device was a modem add-on that would allow you to download games. It was only released in Japan, and one of the notable features of the device was the Zelda remake, as you can see right now. Okay, this is where all the fun begins. Join us next part where the Zelda series was changed forever with the Ocarina of Time.